have sweeter ones than I do in your room. But I was listening tons of heavy metal riffs. Like, how did you get into metal in the first place? Let's kind of start there.
Yeah. It would have been, dude, I was like a kid when I first got into like heavier stuff. I got into like heavy music pretty early. I feel like some of the earliest stuff that I was really into is like I was born in 86, so I'm like a new metal kid through and through.
All right.
That was my introduction to like real heavy music. So
You were
yeah,
born in 86, which puts you like, so you're like kind of like 15 in what, 2001?
yeah, 2001. Yeah. I would have been 15. Yeah,
So
14 going on 15.
that's kind of when you, because I was around that age when I super got heavy into like blues and rock. So is that kind of what happened to you, or was it even earlier than that?
Well, it was earlier than that. So I grew up in a household where we were just playing lots of music. My parents listened to music all the time.
Cool.
I had a lot of family that were musicians. My uncle was a musician, like a classically trained musician. So
Wow, runs in the blood.
He was a pianist. So yeah, and my dad was same thing, like classically trained. Wasn't like super into music when I was a kid. Like he wasn't playing. Like my dad grew up playing piano. He didn't really play when I was a kid, but my whole life I grew up listening to like Sabbath and AC/DC and like Guns N' Roses, and Motley Crue and Van Halen.
All right.
And like all that, like Zeppelin and stuff. So my parents just big into that. So I think that was probably my first like exposure to music that wasn't I mean, obviously all those bands are really popular. But it was like a little left of mainstream where I was like, oh cool, like you can be in a band and like yell and like make crazy noises with your guitar and people think that's cool, and I think that's fucking cool. So am I allowed to swear?
Oh, of course, man. Just don't say.
Okay, I won't say that.
I'm just joking. We have a running inside joke here at Drivewire that you just can't say.
That's funny. But yeah, so that's probably my first exposure to like heavier stuff. And then probably, when I was 7, 8, 9, I guess, that kind of range, I got into like skateboarding and BMX.
The Rebel Pathway.
Yeah, such a badass. I was a real punk rocker.
I still are, brother.
Yeah, so that
lumberjack shirt and everything.
Oh yeah. So that like opened the door to the punk scene, which was really cool for me. And I was also right around that time. It would have been like the early to mid 90s. I was getting into like Nirvana and like Soundgarden and all the grunge stuff that was coming out of Seattle and everything.
I get
that was
you.
Really cool.
Yeah,
it was huge right around that time. Pearl Jam, like Smashing Pumpkins.
Yes.
And then that kind of opened the door to like more punk bands like Green Day. I remember getting like Dookie when I was so young, and I remember getting it. I think I stole it from a friend's older brother.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say from like HMV.
No, I wish. That would be a cool story. No, but I think I like stole a copy from my friend's older brother. He had it on cassette. I stole that, and I beat the shit out of that thing, dude. It's like all I listened to, and I would go BMX and like skateboard all day, and listen to that on my like little like Walkman with my like headphones on. And then punk music, it kind of went from there. Like got into Blink and
then so because I have a lot of friends who got heavy into the listening side, but they never got into the playing side, and I'm really grateful that I did. So when did like, hey, I can actually play a guitar and I'm getting good at it? When did that happen for you?
Well, it was weird, man. So I never really knew what I wanted to get into. I just knew I wanted to be in a band. I thought it was such a cool idea that you could play music and people would like care about it. You could it like seemed so rad. And I just grew up loving music, and it was such a huge part of my life. And it was always drums or guitar for me. I loved them both. I thought both were really cool. So yeah, I grew up and I was always tapping on stuff. So I would always be tapping on like my desk at school, and my teachers would get super pissed and like complain to my parents.
Same.
Yeah, I'd always just be like, being a goof. so I was really into drums early on, and that kind of sparked a thing. And I realized that I thought drums were really cool, and it just seemed like a really cool thing to get into. But also guitar was really cool, and I had this little guitar when I was a kid, and I used to go play. My grandparents had like a trailer, like a cottage up at this like trailer park.
All right.
And they would have like country nights, and they would have like local country bands come up and play at the band shell. And I would go up there as a little kid, like a little kid, like 4 or 5, with my little like Sears guitar, and I'd sneak up on stage and go play with them, and everyone would laugh because I'm this little kid just like rocking out and stuff. But that was probably when I realized I wanted to play. Like I thought guitar was cool. So, but it's weird because like I started playing. I got a guitar when I was 12. I think my first guitar when I was 11 or 12, and it was just like a cheap Washburn like Strat, with a practice amp. So I would dabble on that. But then I knew I was good. I was like pretty good at drums. Like I had a pretty good sense of rhythm and time and stuff like that. So eventually I asked for a drum set. So I had drums and guitar, and I was super into both of them, and I would kind of juggle between the two. But weirdly enough, I started like playing drums in bands. That's just like that was just the gig that I got. Even though I'd played guitar for longer, technically,
drums I just kind of available.
Bands. Yeah, I was just like the drummer in the band whenever that would work out.
I got you.
Yeah, so that's actually like where it started. I started playing drums in bands, and I was in like a punk ska band in high school, called Baked Fresh Daily.
Baked Fresh Daily.
Yeah, we smoked a lot of weed.
Cool. I get it.
But we would do Less Than Jake covers and like No Effects and Catch 22 and like we would like, and we played like a bunch of shows too. We played a ton of shows. We were like good friends with the dudes in Il Scarlet, who are like they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I was actually one of the bands that I listened to a lot in high school.
Yeah, so they were like good, but like we were both of our bands were like high school dudes that were just trying to make it work on weekends. So we would always like team up and play shows together and share gear. And then only later on, throughout that whole time, that whole period, I was playing guitar and I was into guitar as well, but I was just a drummer in bands. But then eventually and I guess it would have been 2005. I was good friends with like one of my best friends, Dave. He was in this band from Oakville, and it was like this kind of like metal quarry thing. And their guitar player, they had released like an EP, and they had booked their first tour, and their guitar player decided that it wasn't what he wanted to be doing. So I was asked to like tap in for a tour just to cover so we could do it. And that band was my first band, Dead and Divine. So that's like how that happened. I just like jumped in on a whim. I sold some drum gear and bought a 5150 and a Marshall cab.
Nice.
And I'm trying to think of what the first, I think I ended up getting a Jackson, the Christian Old Wolbers, like the Fear Factory.
Was it a V or closer to like a Dinky?
No, it was like the Dinky. It was like the COW.
They're actually pretty sick guitars, man. I've seen a couple of the Jacksons come through. Oh, they're awesome.
It's funny because now I fucking wish I had it.
Really?
Because dude, it's so I would play it in teeth now. It was just like weird, ugly, like we called it marshmallow camo, but it was just like it was like booger green and then like phlegm yellow.
Gross.
Red. Yeah. It looked like someone got sick on it.
Yeah.
But it had like one pickup, reverse headstock, like dinky body, like carved top dinky body. But it was like that weird color and an ebony fretboard with no fret markers and just like an EMG in the bridge. And that was it. And it was like this super stripped down like metal thing. And I got it. And I was like, whatever.
And actually the setup, like just of the guitar itself, of having like, a single pickup right in the bridge, like those kinds of things, they're loud. They don't have a lot of interference and they tend to shred when you know how to use one, for sure.
Dude, it was killer, man. So yeah, we did that tour, and like after that, I was just a guitar player in bands. Super weird. It happens so fast.
You know what? I actually hear that story in a lot of like, how did you end up getting where you wanted to get? It's essentially, it boils down to, I kept my eye on the prize for a long ass time. And then as soon as the opening, and it's almost always like someone was sick, left the band, like I filled in for them one time and it just worked out and then it stuck. And from then on, things had changed, which is really cool. So that was with Dead and Divine.
Yeah.
And where does 100 Suns fit into this story? Was that after? Was that in between there and Teeth? Like, where's that?
It was kind of, so it was in between Dead and Divine and Teeth.
Okay.
So Dead and Divine went on to tour. We toured for like 9 years.
And you went worldwide, right?
Oh, yeah.
I want to come back to that.
Cool. We toured for a long time.
Yeah.
And in 2012, we decided to just hang her up, take a break. Because we had been going so hard for so long and it was just
kind of worn down
at a point. Yeah, it just gets tiring. And, there's just like, there's the obvious internal struggles that bands go through and people change and people sort of, your idea of what you want in a band changes, so just everything changes over time, right? We all grew up and it just got to a point where we're like, I don't know that we have much more to contribute to this scene. Like, are we just going to keep writing records that, you know what I mean? It's just like, we've kind of felt like we hit a ceiling. We weren't sure if it was what we wanted to do. We like loved it. Obviously that was like our baby, but you also see a lot of these scenarios where bands kind of keep going and you're like, hang it up, dudes, like just, and we didn't want to be one of those bands. We didn't want to be one of those bands where people were like, wow, I wish they stopped after blank record, cause that was when they were good. So
yeah,
we just kind of hit that spot where, we just felt like we were maybe that's like where we were at. And it wasn't shitty or anything like that. It was, everyone was cool about it. It was like, all right, well, let's just like pack it in for a bit, man. And if we pick it up again down the road, maybe that might happen. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But like, we all needed a break, I think. So that was 2012. And for me, like I like love touring and I love writing music. That's just what I do. It feels like it's the only thing I'm good at. So I immediately was like, let's start something new. I wanted to like do something different. And I wanted to write music that was a little bit different. So that's kind of where 100 Suns came in, man. Like Matt and I had talked about starting a side project and we had started this thing called Ritual. And I wasn't involved in that for very long. Like he and I had started it and we started demoing ideas. And then after a while, it was just like, we just weren't on the same page. And it's probably because realistically, like we wrote a lot of the Dead and Divine stuff. So jumping from being in a band together, like being in Dead and Divine together, being like the primary songwriters and then quitting and then being like, let's start a new band with each other. It's like, it's just going to like feel this. It ended up just sort of feeling the same.
Of course.
Yeah. It was just like, we're just kind of like, we had the same ideas that we all, right. So it's like, maybe we need to, I don't know, like do our own thing. So yeah, we split off on that and Matt did Ritual with a bunch of our homies from Hamilton. And they released a really cool record and like, that was super rad. And then I went in the other direction and started 100 Suns with Corey from Norma Jean and like Legs from Every Time I Die. And us three had always been talking about being in a band together. We had toured, Dead and Divine had toured with Norma Jean a couple years prior. And Corey and I just like really hit it off. We shared a bus together. So him and I just like, we're just, every tour, there's always like the other dudes and bands that you really get along with and hit it off with.
Of course, man.
And he was one of those.
Shoulders.
Like, yeah. It was just like one of those things where we like immediately saw eye to eye on so much stuff. And we just hit it off, man. And we always talked about being in a band. So once Dead Divine packed her in, we were like, let's do this, man. Let's like start a thing, see if people like it. And
then how long was 100 Suns together?
Well, we're still together. It's still a thing. We're
so
just
you're
not touring.
In Teeth and 100 Suns right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so they're both technically active. It's just 100 Suns with 100 Suns and having Corey and Norma Jean. Obviously Norma Jean is his like baby, you know what I mean? So it's and we knew this from the beginning that it would always sort of be like a juggling act. Like Norma Jean has to tour. That's like that's just Corey's, that's what keeps him alive, man.
It's a bread and butter, right? Like you can't, you can't deny that.
Until we all knew that until 100 Sons got to a point where he could then like pick and choose what he wanted to do, that Norma Jean was always going to be like the band that he's got to go out on the road with Norma Jean stuff, and they've got to release records. So right now we're pretty much just in a downswing thing where he's doing his stuff and 100 Sons is hung up for the minute.
So how does COVID play into this? Like, are you guys doubling down on making content? Is everything on hold right now for you? Like, are you communicating more via social? Mm-hmm. How do you do this?
So for Teeth, COVID has kind of been, it's sort of been like a blessing in disguise, which is weird. You wouldn't think that.
Not for a band.
Not for a band. And there's obviously been downsides to it, of course. We had a whole year of touring booked. We had to cancel it all. We just bought a brand new van, and it's like shit. Now we have like van payments, and we're not playing shows.
Yeah, so that's a recipe for a nightmare.
That really sucks. But it also gave us the opportunity to spend more time working on music. It gave us, we had the freedom to just release things. Up until very recently, we were like fully independent. So we had no record label, we had no management, no booking agent, nothing. It was just like Teeth was a passion project between like me and Blake from a band called Straight Reads the Line. He's been in other bands like Anniversary and Skynet and like a bunch of other things. And also Legs from Every Time I Die, who's no longer in Teeth, but he was in Teeth up until recently. But for us, it was just like a passion project. But yeah, COVID really just gave us the opportunity to spend more time working on music and kind of refining what Teeth was going to be. And I also think that since we were able to self-release all of our own music, it kind of opened up a window for us to, like, we released a song called Death Race right after the COVID stuff happened, like when that all kind of like hit the scene. So we like wrote a song about it, and it gave us the ability to write a song about it on the fly. We did it. We had we had a song like half done. We finished it in a few weeks. We recorded it remotely. So we were all like safe, and everyone was like, whatever, that was all cool. But yeah, it kind of gave us the ability to like crack down on stuff like that and focus on, creating.
Yeah.
Which, again, like, I guess that's like the silver lining. It sucks that we couldn't tour, but we were able to release more music this year. And I would argue it was received better than like what I had anticipated, because so many people were at home and so many people were spending more time like listening to music and like just like absorbing content and like media, right? So it gave us a chance to throw this out at people, and everyone is like actually listening. So
yeah,
I feel like in a lot of ways, like it helped us kind of grow as a band, which is, again, it's very weird because
have you found it's helped you to develop relationship with your client base, or do you find that no, man, shows for sure was way better than what we're doing now?
I think that a little bit of A, a little bit of B. I think that ultimately touring is that's just like a band's bread and butter. That's like how you stay afloat. That's how like ultimately how you connect with people like one-on-one. That just feels like such an important thing. But with fans being so connected to bands via social media, I think that a lot of people and a lot of like music fans understand that their favorite artists are going through some shit right now, which makes it I just think people are more inclined to like interface with their favorite bands and artists, and it gives artists a chance to interface with fans, because what the fuck else are we doing? It's like we're all here, we're all stuck, we all know that everyone's going through the same shit. And it kind of like opens that door for communication, and I feel like we communicate a lot with fans on social media now, more, it feels like more than before, because people have the time to reach out to their favorite bands and just shoot the shit. So yeah, in a weird way, it's like it's a little bit of both. But I mean, like, I'd be crazy to say that we don't all miss touring, and that's really like where my heart lies.
Yeah.
I love the studio and I love recording, but I'm just like a road dog, man.
There's nothing quite like getting on stage in front of a bunch of people who know what you're about.
Yeah, dude, and that's just like really gratifying and very cool to like share that with people. And with Teeth, it's obviously really like we write some pretty aggressive music. So I was and I still am really excited to actually play some shows and like see how this stuff translates live, because yeah, it's gonna be
jumping around, you mean? Or like what do you mean see how this stuff translates live? You mean your new stuff?
Yeah, so
okay.
Like all the Teeth stuff, we've never had a chance to play it live. Teeth has never played a live show ever.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that explains it, because this has been like a challenge specific to this interview, is like we have had a hard time sourcing information about you and your band. So that's why I'm asking you so many questions to start this about like, dude, fill me in on the story. Usually I have this and we can start building the case and asking you specific questions. But so Teeth has never even,
Teeth
brand new.
It's like a brand new thing. Yeah.
I get
Teeth,
it.
I started Teeth. So the timeline would be like Dead and Divine was like 2005, 2012.
Okay.
And then 2013 to current is like 100 Suns.
Okay.
And Teeth started in 2019.
Okay.
2019, we were just like, all right, let's like start a thing, released a couple tunes. 2020 happened. And then it just we were like gearing up to tour.
Yeah.
And it was just like breaker.
Brutal.
Nothing, everything shut down. And we had a full year booked, and it was just like no dice.
So Teeth is almost like right now, it's just a label on all these unreleased songs, like these heavy hardcore songs that are waiting to go out there.
Yeah, well, we've released 5 so far. We've released singles, and kind of scattered them out over the year. But again, that's what's cool about, not cool, but the silver lining with the COVID stuff is we were able to just trickle out content whenever we felt like it.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool. No, it's awesome. And there are definitely benefits to having a smaller label versus a larger. So one of the things that Drivewire is really about, and I wanted to hold this off until we got at least up to speed with what the hell is going on in your life, so I can ask you accurate questions. We're about like, okay, once you have talent, what now? Like there's a lot that goes into this band thing, like any art, but I'm a musician and you're a musician. So let's keep it to music. But like you have the visuals. I think a lot of bands forget that your band is visual. It has to be visually appealing. Like I know that you were involved in some of your videos that you were doing. Yeah. There's videos, there's marketing, there's how to interact with your people. There's how to sell shit to make money to, right? Like stay alive. That matters. That matters a lot.
Absolutely.
So, your bio specifically, one of it said Teeth has less likes than some of the other local bands, but it still gets signed to New Damage. It still makes moves, gets headlines, and makes more monies when local bands can't bring 10 people to their show. So how do you drive people in? What are you doing?
I just think, I mean, we've been afforded the luxury of, we've all been in other bands. So I think a lot of it comes down to that. Like, I think that we've just all spent so much time dedicated to being in bands and writing music that over the years we've been, I know for me, and I've been lucky enough to, like, with Dead and Divine, we had a pretty strong fan base. We did pretty well around the world. 100 Suns, same thing. Like when we came out, there's like a pretty decent amount of hype around that band, because it's like Corey from Norma Jean, who is obviously, you know, in that scene, dude, I grew up listening to Norma Jean. So being in a band with him is weird. But like for, you know, obviously cool. that just got a lot of attention, because it was like this, you know, this awesome musician started this new band with dudes who have also been in other bands. So I think a lot of it comes down to that. Just us, you know, we've always sort of been active doing other stuff. So I think Teeth probably, I just think there's maybe more eyeballs on Teeth when it came out, just because it was like members of XYZ, you know what I mean?
Got you. It's like the previous buildup that you'd like already built up. Like you've been out for years and you already have some reputation, and three people with the reputation come together. There's got to be something out of that. Yeah.
So people were interested, and it was like really cool. But after that, I think like obviously like hype, and like headline stuff that's one thing, but I think you also have to deliver. And I think with
definitely,
and even 100 Sons, one thing that we were always very cognizant of, and specifically like something I'm very interested in, is like the visual stuff. Like you said, I wanted both bands, and like specifically talking about Teeth, because that's like what you referenced. When we came out, I wanted it to like feel cohesive, and I wanted it to feel like more than just like a flash in the pan. Like, here's a couple songs, like whatever.
Yeah.
And the goal was never to like, and it still isn't. The goal isn't for us to be some like huge fucking rock star band. Like, if you've heard the songs, like there's no way that's ever going to be fucking mainstream successful. There's like
it's a little bit too technical for the average listener. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. And like the goal was always to just be like the most, I mean, like the joke in Teeth is like, we just want to be the most like hyper violent, pissed off sounding band ever, you know? So we're always just like pushing it as far as we can go. So there's definitely no like delusion of grandeur there, where it's like, oh man, maybe one day we'll be playing to 25,000 people at an arena, whatever. Like that was never the goal, and it still isn't the goal. And
our main objective still has like sorry to cut you off. Your media still is, like you said, is cohesive. Like, so I've watched a couple of the shows where it's like, it's kind of black and white, and there's particular lighting. And I think you're in a church. I think.
Yeah.
It has this like I'll just say like a sort of antichrist type vibe. Like like, you know, it's like a fuck you to everything. Was the color and the like, okay, I have heavy, hardcore, hard hitting music.
Mm-hmm.
I think these are the types of visuals that go with it. Where do you get to like where do you draw the line, or like how do you make the match? Or is it just like, hey, this is what the fuck I feel like doing because we're not going to be in front of 25,000 people anyways?
Mm-hmm. I mean, kind of, yeah. I mean, for me, I've always connected. To me, like art is just art, whether you're doing like music or you're painting or you're making a film or you're a photographer or whatever, right? Like, to me, they're all kind of intertwined, and they all sort of work with each other. And I think that it's really compelling when you pair those things up, right? Like when you watch a film that's scored beautifully, it makes the film better. You know, and vice versa. I think that when you make music and you pair it up with like beautiful or like captivating or stunning visuals, I think it just like hits that much harder, and I think it helps get the message across. So when we were doing like with Teeth, for example, again, the goal is just to be, you know, really gnarly sounding, really aggressive, like in your face. And it just made sense to
which it is, to be fair. It definitely is. I heard a couple of the songs and I was like, man, this rips. This definitely rips.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah. So for that, like for shooting our videos, like we wanted them to all just be, again, not to use the same term over and over again, but like super in your face and just like really gnarly. And so yeah, black, white, and red. And like for each single we released, we would kind of like choose a color scheme. So for the first 3, it was black, white, red. Those are the colors that we're rolling with. And then for Death Race, it was about quarantine, and it was about like this pandemic and this virus spreading. So we switched to like slime green and black and white, and like everything was really gross. And we had like biohazard symbols on stuff just to like hammer home the message. And then the last song that we released, Rive, was about, you know, it was sort of loosely about something that happened to me personally, when it came like with like domestic abuse that I had experienced, and I would watch it happen in my life, and like not like anything with my, I won't get into who it was involved.
Yeah, let's save their privacy.
Yeah,
it was something you were close enough to that
I was close to a person. I'm close to a person who was in a situation that was pretty undesirable and pretty gross.
Sorry to hear.
And yeah, and that so that's sort of where that song started. But it kind of turned in. It evolved into a song that was more just about like injustice and like just someone abusing power to keep anyone down, right? Like, so, and it really made sense with what was going on in the States and with the Black Lives Matter stuff, and that all sort of worked. So the color scheme for that was like black and white, like very polarizing in a literal sense.
Yeah.
And we wanted to keep it very stark. And we did this like newsprint effect, this like halftone on everything to make it feel like it was almost like media, like it was like that kind of propaganda vibe stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's like, for every song, like we kind of like, we would just sort of like take the vibe of that song and try to represent it in a visually captivating way.
No, I like that. I really do. And I think that personally, I believe that's one of the things that a lot of like up and coming bands is easy wins to start just focusing. Okay, how do I get at least, even if it's like let's call it quote unquote amateur shot, how do I get the colors? Like, can I wear, maybe we all wear the same thing, or maybe we're in a white room and we're all wearing like however we can coordinate that. Like 15% of your effort going there on your video overall will go way far compared to just a rocking song.
Yeah, for sure.
But the song needs to rock too. I'm not saying,
of course,
right? Like that's the baseline of Drivewire Radio. Like if you don't have talent, you can't. I can't give you talent. You have to start with the good song, good music. It has to have integrity, man.
Yeah, the core, the product needs to be there, right? Like the thing that you're selling needs to be there. Not to like, equate music to like being a product, but it ultimately is. You're trying to like give something to people and like get a message across and captivate them and to keep people excited and entertained and whatever. So yeah, I think there's just so much more. Obviously the foundation needs to be built on something sturdy, which is the music. There needs to be like a solid foundation, but I think everything after that really holds a lot of weight, man. I think a lot of people, I also think a lot of people forget how like visually, like exciting a lot of bands, like classic rock bands were, you know what I mean? And like bands from like back in the day when you'd have like Alice Cooper and shit, like just like being crazy looking and like even go like as far back as the Beatles, man, like the whole like Yellow Submarine thing, like I don't know. There's just a lot of like artists put a lot of time into like the visual side of music, which sounds kind of weird, but it
matters so much.
And I feel like we lost it. I feel like I want to say like the mid 2000s, it kind of like fizzled away a little bit. It feels like, I feel like the last time we really got like, especially heavy music and rock music, I think the last time that like rock was really like shaken up was like Slipknot, like Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Those might have been the last artists to like really do something crazy and piss people off and get people talking. And that's not to say that there aren't still like, cool bands. I just feel like the like the emphasis on visuals like maybe shifted, or people forgot about how important that was. And I think that there's like a little bit of a revival coming back now with a lot of artists. Like now you're seeing more crazy music videos coming back and like people looking crazy and like just doing crazy shit. And I think it's cool, man. I just like, I miss that sort of like rock star mentality.
You're like a rebel at heart, eh?
I mean, yes.
Okay, that was good, man. I like that. When you first got into the industry, was music industry exactly what you expected, or was there like a cold hard slap in the face and you're like, fuck, I gotta change some shit around?
Cold hard slap in the face for sure.
Yeah, okay, go. Give me the background.
For sure, dude. I just think, I think you grow up kind of having an idea of what it's gonna be like if you were in a band and how that all works, and you go to shows and concerts and you see these artists that are on this huge stage and they're in tour buses and they have production and backdrops and they're all playing expensive gear and you just have this idea of what that must be like,
right?
And then like finally, if you're lucky and you do all the right shit and you spend you spend all your time practicing and you get there, there's definitely like a moment where you're like, oh shit, like it's not as glamorous as I thought. You don't see the 16-hour overnight drives. You don't see everyone trying to like save cash on tour, like eating that fucking Subway every day. You know, it's like not that cool. You know, you don't see like it's like you sleep like shit. Even in tour buses, man, those things are like virus incubators. Everyone gets sick, and you're sleeping in bunks that aren't big enough. Like I'm a big dude, I'm 6'2", so it's like sleeping in a bus bunk is like not the best, man. Like it's just not cool. It works, like you make it work, but it's just like
you're killing my vibe, man. You're bringing it down.
Well, no, but I think that it's just there's obviously all these amazing things, right? Like,
yeah, of course,
there's all this fucking awesome stuff that comes from being in a band, and like that goes without saying. All of the things I just mentioned are in some way, especially when I look back on a lot of it, and even like right now, it's like, dude, it's like the funnest time of my life, like the most. Like I had so much fun. I've seen so many cool places and met all these amazing people. And like, dude, I've slept under our van and in parking lots, man, in November, you know, like it's fucking raining outside. Like we've done crazy, shady shit. And I still look back at it as like the best time of my life, you know? So like all of that goes without saying. But I just think that there's like, they kind of like I feel like the media kind of like builds being an artist up to this certain, you just sort of view it in a certain way. You never see what's going on in the background. And the same thing goes with like obviously like magnified by a million when you see like celebrities and shit, you know. It's like that must be so cool. And then you hear about celebrities dealing with addiction and depression, and it's like, what? How dare you, man? You've got you're Johnny Depp or you're fucking Brad Pitt.
You can't be depressed.
You can't be depressed. And it's like, yeah, but that's the thing. You never see what's going on in the background. And like, not to compare the goofy bands that I've been into that level of success, but like, I just think it all kind of makes it all sort of works together, and it like you just never really see like what's going on behind closed doors. So you grow up thinking it's a certain thing, and then like it happens. And you're like, oh, there's all this work involved. Like, you know, it's like you don't just like walk on stage and like play and a bunch of people scream and like high five you, and then you like bounce and go sleep in a nice bed and like have a big dinner and like hang out with, like, you know, it's just, no, you like don't shower after the show. and then you got to change into like unwashed clothes with your buddies, and then everyone's hungry because it's 2:00 in the morning and no one can eat, and you got an overnight drive, and so you just stay up and you don't sleep. And yeah, man, it's like it's cool. It's worth it, obviously, because I'm still doing it. So but I just think it's like I think younger artists and musicians should just like I feel like here's what it boils down to, is I think that young me would have had a lot more fun in the moment if I wasn't always pushing for that, like, oh, I can't wait till we get in a bus. I can't wait till we have a hotel room. I can't wait till I have whatever guitars. It's like, just enjoy it for what it is, and like forget the fancy shit that you think is going down. Just like be stoked on playing music with your friends. And I think that like that's the takeaway, and it's not not to sound depressing or whatever, but it's just like live in the moment and like don't like keep you like have realistic expectations for like what like that is.
And the more stoked you are to play with your friends, like, let's just break this down, the more fun you're going to have on stage.
For sure.
So the more enjoyable your show is going to be.
And that translates.
So the more engaged your audience is.
Yes.
So the faster you get to the fucking hotel room in the first place.
Exactly. And
if you can just enjoy it and maybe share that with some people, then all of a sudden you have buyers of your music.
Yeah. And if you're not constantly shooting for like the next thing, it's like, man, you're going to get to the next thing. But you've just wasted all the fun. Like, you've just missed all the fun shit you just did, you know, like, and we're all, dude, I've done that for sure. And a lot of my peers have. I watch it happen. I watch dudes quit bands because it just isn't what they thought it was going to be. And it's like
all the time.
And it's like, you set the bar so high. Because again, we all have these like this like idea of what being in a band is going to be like. Oh man, we're going to like be doing this. It's going to be amazing. And it's going to be so crazy. And like, we're going to get treated special. And then you get on the road and you're not treated special and you're just hustling every day. And it's like, but like, I think the key is to like find value in that, man. Like sit back and absorb what's going on and like live in the moment and be excited about just like being able to play music. And then the rest of the stuff should kind of start falling into place if what you're doing is cool. And that's up to, that's for people to decide. That's not, that's ultimately not on you, you know, like do your best and like create what you really care about and like be authentic, obviously. But also, yeah, like live in the moment and enjoy what you have while it's happening. And like, dude, enjoy the overnight drives, man. Like you're going to be old and you're not going to be able to do those soon. So like, you know, like soak it up, man, like have fun. And yeah. So like going back to the original thing, like there's definitely a bit of a slap in the face, but I think that like over the years, I've just learned to, I don't know. I've just learned to like
enjoy the pain.
Just enjoy it, man. It just is what it is, and not a lot of people get to do it, and I won't be able to do it forever, and none of us will. So, yeah, just enjoy being able to like have fun and play music. And if all the other shit happens, then like bonus, awesome.
Yeah, right. Like if it gets added to, then it's even better.
Perfect, amazing. That was that.
You know, yeah. As far as the places you've toured, I know you've been a lot of places. Anything sticks out as like a favorite place that you would go back to first if you could go back? Oh man, that's a tough one. You don't have to answer if you feel like you're betraying people. I'm not looking for betrayal. No. I'm just trying to think. There's a lot, man. There's a lot of really rad places, dude. I love like Europe in general is amazing. The first time I toured there in Dead and Divine, like the reception was crazy. To me, it made no sense. I was like, how do these people know who our band is? I've never been here before. I don't know any of these people, but they somehow know the lyrics to our songs, which was just wild. And I think that the European metal hardcore scene they just give a shit about bands. They really, really, really care about music, and they're like very attached to the artists that go over there. So when you show up, it's not like here where like you could have a decent sized band touring through Canada and play somewhere like Hamilton or St. Catharines or whatever. And no one shows up just because it's like a weird day of the week, or it's on a Tuesday, or because so-and-so played there a week before. Whereas I feel like Europe, like their metal, hardcore, punk, like rock fans are like so dedicated to music that they would never let that get in the way. So you go over there and you're some tiny band from Canada and there's like 300 kids there. And you're like, how does this make any sense? Like that's pretty cool. I don't understand it. Cause if we were in the States right now, there wouldn't be 300 kids there, but we're close. Like that's way closer to where we live. And like, those are like, we've been there a million times, but then you go to Europe and they're just so dedicated and like into what bands are doing. So do you think that's a culture thing, or do you think it's a sense they're so far, like, well, if these guys are from freaking Canada and they're here in Denmark, well, then obviously they're so good because they came so far. Like the farther you go, the better you get received. Or do you think it's, hey, people over there just give a shit about their music?
Maybe like a bit of both. I think that there's probably something to the fact that you're from really far away. So people are like, oh, this like must be cool because
let's go check out Canada.
Let's just check this Canadian band out. But it's also just in talking to a lot of Europeans, they're just like, they're a lot more open, and it's a lot less like cliquey, you know. It's like, I don't listen to so-and-so and so-and-so because it's not cool. Right. People will just go to shows to have fun because that's like what they're into. Whereas like over here, it's like, oh, like Green Day's playing with fucking, or like Lagwagon's opening for Green Day. I love Lagwagon, but fuck Green Day because they're mainstream, so I'm not gonna go watch the show. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. There's like a little bit of like a snobbiness that we have over here. And honestly, it's probably because we're just like spoon fed awesome shit all the time, and you just sort of like, I feel like we forget that we're lucky that big cities are only 2 hours away from one another. And we're lucky that we get these big tours from these huge artists. And we're lucky that we're like an A market. So everyone comes through and you can kind of like pick and choose who you want to see and when, and depending on who they're supporting. Whereas over there, they're just grateful to have cool tours come through. And that's not to say that Europe isn't huge. Europe is fucking enormous. And huge population,
and
but
super
it's just
dense,
and it's super dense.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's just like they're way more like open to just going and seeing a new band they've never heard of or whatever, and like
that's
getting
cool,
stoked
man.
on it. So I don't know, that's just my experience. I could be totally wrong, but
no, I've actually heard that from a lot of other people saying the same thing. Like, Carter, I don't know what is something in the water over there, but everyone there just seems to really be interested in hearing new music at a new bar.
Yeah.
I love that.
Which, like, I mean, think about it, man. How many times like have you or your friends gone out and listened to a band you've never heard of? Like, you traveled to go see a band you've never heard of.
It's rare.
It's like I've never done that. You know,
it's rare.
It's weird.
I grew up in a really small town in like southwestern Ontario. So like,
whereabouts are you from?
Chatham is my hometown.
Oh, dude. So my mom used to live in Tilbury.
Really?
So I am familiar with Chatham.
That's absolutely.
And it's funny. That's why I asked, because I was like, I bet you're from Chatham or something.
Outrageously funny. Yeah, I look like I'm from Chatham, right?
No, you don't. No,
but I'm just joking. Everybody, this is what it is. Like,
how rude.
Like, what's that?
How rude.
How rude.
Yourself.
No, I know. It's all screw Chatham, right? You know, I know. I actually really liked it there. But because I was in this kind of, Chatham's interesting. It's about an hour and 15 minutes to Sarnia, about an hour about an hour to Windsor, about an hour to London. So these larger kind of city areas, especially Windsor, right on the Detroit border, allows for like some pretty cool tour. So yeah, I'm told this band's pretty good, and I go check them out, and I've been happy a few times checking that out, man, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man,
it's been really cool. Well, listen, man. I have like notes that I was taking. I don't know if you noticed me taking notes. I took a bunch of notes. I thought it was cool. I really appreciate you coming here. I really love the part kind of closer to the end where you broke down, hey, this is what I thought it was going to be, and this is what it is. I think that's realism that people need to hear.
Yeah.
I like what you're doing. I like the overall vision. You know, I'm not like a heavy music kind of guy. So I'll put your music on when Stacy makes me like super angry one day or whatever. I don't know. Like, that's my fiance, man. I'm just she's behind the camera and she's giving me dirty eyes. So
that's hilarious.
Job well done. But no, I like that the music and the picture match. There's something professional about that. And then, you know, even just talking to you, just the way that you're getting the music across. And this is something that I want. I don't have these necessarily grandiose visions of being incredibly huge, but hey, if we get there, we get there, and you're doing what you need to do to slug through like the long ass tour nights. And I know that's a lot, man. I know it's way more than people expect it to be. I really do appreciate you like breaking out the reality of what it is for our listeners.
Yeah, and like I said, man, I don't think it needs to be. It's not even a negative thing, right? It's just like having realistic expectations and just understanding that hard work pays off, man. And you know, it's just like you got to. I hate the term like grind it out, but like sometimes you got to grind it out.
Literally got to grind it out.
You literally got to like sleep on floors and shit. And
that's right.
And have fun.
A final question. Definitely have fun, man. Music, like as soon as the fun dies, then so does the music itself.
100%.
You have to keep it fun. So something that just popped up, if you started so many different bands, right? At least 3 or 4 that we've talked about on the show.
Mm-hmm.
When you started your first band versus when you start a band now, are you focusing on different things to, okay, this is where my band, like obviously the music is still there, but is there a different aspect, or no, it's kind of always just like make as good a music as you can?
I think it's definitely changed, right? Like now I think that's a good question, actually. It's actually a really good question. Yeah, I think earlier on it was all about like, let's just do a thing with my friends because we're bored, and you know, like the high school band stuff. There was no like, what are the visuals gonna be? It was just like, let's just fucking start a band, right? And smoke some weed and cover like Blink-182 songs.
Yeah.
And that's just like all we did. And then like we kind of did a couple like mini tours, and we played like a couple Frosh Week shows, and we like did some cool shit. But like, yeah, like as time went on, especially through Dead and Divine, which was like that was the band I was in for the longest, pretty much from like the beginning to the end of it. Yeah, over those years is where it started sort of like we all kind of started developing just like a knack for kind of like putting the visual with the music, you know. So I just hit my mic. But yeah, and then like as time went on after that, that just became something that I was really excited about and that I really love being involved with all the way through Dead and Divine. And then 100 Suns, when I started that, I was like, I want to do this. For 100 Suns, it was definitely like, I want to do this. Like another word I hate people using is like epic. Like I just feel like it's like beat to death.
It's overused.
And whenever anyone's like, it's epic, it's probably not that epic.
Yeah. Or awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I probably just say, watch, you're gonna go back, and I've said them 30 times. With
I don't think so. I'm usually pretty good at picking up on people's like particular words, and I haven't heard epic out of you very often.
Yeah, well, like is one of them, so I apologize to everyone. Just been trying to beat that out of my vocabulary, but yeah, with 100 Suns, the goal was definitely let's do something like grand and epic. Just I want it to feel huge.
Yeah.
I want the music to feel huge.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be like way more rock driven and like rock focused. I wanted it to reach more people, and all three of us did. We were like, let's finally do. We've all been in bands where we're just angry and screaming and yelling, and it's just whatever, you know. We've all done the metal thing. Let's start a band where we can write rock and roll songs and just have crazy visuals and try to do really, really cool shit live. So that was 100 Suns. And then with Teeth, it was just an extension of that, really, because now that's like the only way my brain works. Like I can't get away from when I think of music. I'm just like, what would the video look like? When I write a song, it's the first thing I'm literally writing it and tracking it in my DAW, like at home at my studio. And I'm just like, I wonder what the video for this would look like. What would the colors look like? My brain just like immediately goes to that. So now they're just inherently linked. Like I can't unlink it. So yeah, it's evolved though. It's definitely evolved. Like at the beginning, It was like definitely all music focused. Now it's like, I just want to make the coolest package. I just want to like present this really cool thing to people.
That's right.
Or at least something that I feel like is really cool. And
it's, you know, and that is like a very subconscious, like a lot of the people that I'm interviewing, I'm trying to pull things out that they've done, but they didn't think about it when they did it. They just did it, the thing. So I would like over time through answers like that, which I appreciate very much, to find a way to articulate it and give it back to the music industry as a whole. Like, hey, this is what most of the people who are making successful bands are looking at. It's not just the music. It's this, it's this, it's this. I really want to do that. And I really want to find ways of helping artists monetize social media. I know that that's going to be a very difficult thing for me, but my dream here at Drivewire is to like, I would love to have someone call me and be like, yo, through what I learned on your show from this artist, I now have $500 a week coming in and I don't have to work at Starbucks anymore.
Yeah, man.
Like I really want to do that for artists because the creative, the viral, there's way too much potential on TikTok and social and Insta and YouTube. Like there's way too much potential to not have something that if you're truly talented, where can it go?
Yeah.
But there's a lot, dude, there's a lot standing in the way, man. Like Chris, it's ridiculous.
Oh, it's crazy. And I think like another really important thing is having multiple revenue streams, like having different sources of income that help afford you the time to create the music you want to create too. Like for me, I'm not just in bands, right? Like I work for a guitar amp company. I manage artists as well. So it's like, it also comes down to sort of like finding the thing that you're good at and running with it and trying to create multiple revenue streams where you can just keep yourself afloat.
Absolutely.
Because music can't always be it, right? You're always going to have downtime, even if it's between record cycles. You're going to have downtime, right? So like the most successful musicians I know and the most successful musicians I see are ones who have kind of spread out and kind of like spread their wings and be like, oh, like I'm the merch guy in the band, so I'm going to start designing merch for other bands when my band doesn't need it. Or maybe it's like production and audio stuff. Like
that's right.
Like Misha from Periphery and like those dudes are like, and like Nolly, like they're recording crazy bands now, man. Nolly's a fucking huge producer now. And that came from him being in bands, right? So it's like, I feel like it's a matter of like kind of like honing your skill and your skill set and finding your, you know, like really, really, really getting like sort of like honing your craft and really becoming confident and like being confident in what you're doing and finding those ways to like monetize like you as an artist. Like again, like for me, one thing I've always done is I've always kind of been like the internal band manager guy. There's just for whatever reason, man, like there's always like that dude in a band. And for whatever reason, I'm like, I just end up being the guy who's like answering the emails and, you know, like dealing directly with our management or labels and stuff. And I'm always, you know, and that's not to say like other people in the band aren't involved. I just, usually there's like a point guy.
Yeah.
And that's always like, I've just kind of like fallen into that.
Just been it. And that's really cool. Like once you're good enough to solve a problem for yourself, you can just turn around and solve that same problem for other people.
Yeah, and which is why like me being that dude in some of my bands made me realize like maybe I fall into that and maybe I've just gotten good at it. I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know. Like it could be a million things, but for whatever reason it keeps happening. So maybe I could like try it with other artists. So I started managing bands. And I manage a band called Lightworker out of California now, and we just signed them to Solid State, which is huge. Like that was like the biggest thing ever for them, and we're really stoked on that. So yeah, it's just kind of like it's like spreading out and like finding different things you can do as an artist, because realistically, like it's 2021, man. Like you're not selling 100,000 records first week, you know, you're not selling physical copies anymore. It's all streaming. And
so someone's going to download it.
Yeah. Someone's going to download it. And like, there's a lot of cool, like, dude, that's a great thing. And a lot of, I'm not going to demonize people for that. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. And I don't think that like ruined the music industry. I just think it changed the framework. And it kind of changed the landscape in a way where you just got to be a little bit more creative, right? And find ways to like diversify and kind of have your hands in a few different pots, so to speak.
Yeah, man, I completely agree with that. Like some of the musicians that I know who I have a lot of respect for are giving Zoom lessons, and some of them are recording, and some of them are editing, and some of them are mastering, and some
or like
of them
session work. Yeah,
like session work, or like managing a band for someone, or even like these little hints that drop through every single one of the episodes. Like you could just be the person who helps bands get their image right for what they're trying to portray. Like that's a marketable skill for labels to purchase. Like there's so much like that. And I really believe that the people who have creative capacity are the future of what's going to make money. Like it's not going to be anymore what it's been for decades, and everyone's used to these, like, you know, people doing menial jobs that are repetitive, factory work. I'm not talking bad about that. I just think the robot's going to do it, and the creative stuff that's coming down. But I also look at generally the creative crowd, a lot of them, and they're down on themselves because they quote unquote can't make any money doing what they're doing. And I'm like, okay, well, let's open up this and start getting it. And that's what it's all about, man. And you crushed these questions, dude. You answered them really well. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No, dude. Thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, man.
I mean, the questions were also rad. So, I mean,
thank you.
Some of that goes back on you for sure for asking cool questions.
I do hear that a fair bit. And you know what it is? Like, my goal, my only agenda, one, is to make my guests look awesome. But two, it's like, I'm actually aiming not just at, like, how do you create stuff? I'll get there too. We got there. You taught me about your background and all your bands and how, and your what you feel like. And, you know, I want to make a sound that sounds epic or angry or violent or, but then also, how do we pair that with actual skills that someone who's listening could be like, oh, that's a good idea, and then take it away? And
yeah.
Right? Can we learn from each other, please?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
Yeah, I respect it, man. Thank you for coming on. We will cut this up in any way that makes us both look awesome, and we will cut out everything that doesn't. We'll probably release the whole thing too. We'll make sure you're tagged. Dude, where can people find you when they want to support you?
Damn. There's a lot of different places.
Put every single thing. I own it. Let's do it. Give us like where you want people to go if they want to find you.
So you can check out my band Teeth. We are if you go on Instagram, it's Teeth Noise on Instagram. On
Noise is spelled proper or like with a Z or N-O?
No, the proper way.
Okay. Okay.
Now looking back, there's a perfect opportunity where I could have been super cool and unique. Noiz, but yeah, so it's Teeth Noise the regular way on Instagram. You can follow us there and check our stuff out. All of our links are there, so I won't bother going through the Facebook and
just fucking go check.
I'll just give you one social media platform, and then you can click the rest because they're all there. And you can check out 100 Suns, same thing, at 100 Suns on Instagram. Suns spelt like the thing in the sky and not kids.
Okay, cool. No Zeds either. No Zeds on Suns.
No Zeds. No, none of that shit.
Man.
And then and yeah, I manage a band called Lightworker. You can check them out. Same thing, at Lightworker on Instagram. They're really cool. We just signed a Solid State, like I said. So they just released their first record earlier this year, and it was super badass. And they're seeing a lot of like radio success, which is very fucking cool for a band's first album. It's pretty wild.
It actually is to get out there and
oh, dude. Yeah, so that's very cool. And yeah, I'm the artist relations director over at the at like an amp software company called Positive Grid. And we make some really cool like amp sims and plugins for your DAW and for recording stuff. And we make practice amps and regular amps and all kinds of cool shit. So you can check that out. It's at Positive Grid on Instagram or positivegrid.com. And yeah, go to chrislemasters.com if you want to see my photography work. I do a lot of shit.
You're also a photographer, eh?
Yeah. So I mean, that also is like plays a role. That came from being the visual guy in the band. I sort of just started dabbling, and then here we are. Now I'm taking photos for people. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I sent you a friend request on Facebook from my personal, add it up. I want to have a conversation about a little bit off air about the amps and everything like that you're doing with the amp sim.
Absolutely,
man. Dude, if there's anything you want Drivewire as an outlet to know about future band stuff, bands that you're signing, if you have cool releases, send it our way. We will blast that stuff. Dude. All of our past guests have the right to do stuff like that. Cool. If you need us for anything, let us know. And thank you for coming on and knocking this out of the park, man. It was a really cool interview.
Thank you for having me, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Take her easy and stay safe out there, okay?
Yeah. Cheers.
All right.
Peace.
Peace, bud.